Welcome to this week's After Action, where we take a deep dive into some ahas and takeaways of the previous interview that we had. And this week's interview was with Travis Barnes, a former recon Marine, three tours to Iraq, lawyer, opens a distillery, and what an interview that it was. I absolutely loved getting to step in and really just have a conversation with him. I had a ton of takeaways, and this week I wanted to approach it a little differently. Considering my takeaway from him was he's just always doing the difficult thing. He's always seems to be heading after the most difficult possible task at hand. Everything that he lists out, everything he's talked about doing is just a really different, any one of those things would be a huge feat in life. And yet here he is at almost 40 years old, having completed all of this. So halfway through life and done 3 lifetimes worth of work. And it got me thinking, is this something that he does intentionally? Is he constantly pushing after it? And the thing I wanted to do differently was to ask him, step in, ask him. So I shot him a text message today and said, hey, man, I was hoping maybe we could circle up. I could ask you this question about my and just get his takeaways from it. And I loved it because he let me do that. We got to step in and, well, let's take a listen for ourselves.
What is going on, Travis? Man, I was thinking about you in the interview that we had. And the one thing that stood out to me was doing the hard thing. And as I was writing the after action, I wanted to do something a little different and actually bring you back in, not just get my thoughts, but get your thoughts on it. Because it seems like in everything in life, everything you do, it's always doing the hard thing, doing the hard thing in the military, doing the hard thing out of, went to college, but then you went to law school and then opening up, hey, let's open up a distillery, which, I'm sure was no easy feat. And continuing to do it, man. What thoughts do you have just in general on you doing the hard thing in your life and how that shows up for you?
Yeah, I thought a lot about it too after our conversation. And yeah, doing the hard thing is what makes, in my opinion, life worth living. It's always, if it were easy, everybody would do it. And that's what makes, the accomplishments even that much more fulfilling, knowing that there was an easier path to go down, but taking the hard path, I think it drives me, and it pushes me continuously to search for the next hard path and the next, bigger mountain to climb. So it's just, I think, when you practice it and do it over and over, it just, I never thought of it like that. It's always just been kind of the searching part of life, I guess. What's next? Not getting stuck, bogged down with what's you're dealing with currently, but always looking forward to see, what is that next big goal that I can set in front of myself to reach out and push myself toward.
I love that. And so now it feels like what you're saying, because I was wondering, that's why I really wanted to bring you on, was to ask, because it felt like it was almost like an unconscious thing. And it feels like that's true, that you just constantly, now it's just a habit for you. Like you're pushing to that next difficult thing.
It is 100%. And I think it started maybe in the Marine Corps to become that habit. And now it's just become a part of my life.
How would you say that impacts your day-to-day? Because I would assume that having a task, having a purpose, and I mean, that's, I know a part of your brand is doing things with purpose. But how does that impact your daily life of having that goal, having that drive?
Yeah, I think from a practical standpoint, it's not making excuses, taking responsibility for the good and the bad of any goal or missed goal that we have, both in the company and in life. I think that's probably the biggest thing, that there's, it's taught me to not make excuses and always have ownership over wins and failures.
I love that. I have so much respect for you, everything that you do. It's impressive. So thank you for giving us your time. Thanks for jumping back on for this one, man.
And I love Travis's takeaway here and his reason behind it. Several undertones, heading after that difficult thing kind of removes all the minutiae. It really doesn't give you time to stop and think about anything else that might be going on, thinking about excuses, because if you're constantly heading after it, that's a difficult task. That's a difficult thing to do. And it's really tough to be thinking about anything else. And I think a lot of times people in general, especially veterans, but people in general get stuck in our ways thinking about what's not out there, what we can't do. Whereas if you just commit to that difficult task, you've got to jump in. You've got to go. You don't have time to think about what you can't do, what excuses you might have. It's go time. It's let's make it happen. And I love the clarity that he said that it brings to him by jumping in and do that difficult thing. Not to mention that, but he also mentioned that, you know, what good thing that you've done in your life, what big thing or great thing that you've had that wasn't difficult. And that's what I heard within that message. You know, anything worth doing is usually a really difficult task, because that's why most people don't do it. So constantly seeking out that difficult thing. And that's going to be one of my big takeaways, is to ask you, what was the last difficult thing that you signed yourself up for? What was the last time you signed up for something truly difficult? You got your time in the military, you've got the things that you've done. What are you doing right now that's very difficult? And some of you might be in the middle of that, and I applaud you, keep after it. Some of you, though, might not be. You know, you might have had a couple years since the last time you signed up for something difficult. And Travis's examples are massive. I mean, those are some big things, and it doesn't have to be that big. I will tell you that for me, just recently, I signed up for a huge race up in September to run up the side of a mountain. And to get prepped for it, I signed up for a half marathon in 4 weeks. 4 weeks from today, I signed up for the half marathon. And the moment I signed up for it, it got hyper focused in on everything that I need to be doing. A lot of the excuses, a lot of thought process about getting ready for September, that went out the window. I got to get hyper focused every single day. I have to sit back and focus intentionally on everything I need to do. And I don't really have time to think about everything else. I mean, 4 weeks, I would say I haven't been running in a while. I did a race about 5 months ago, so I'm definitely not feeling out of shape, but I'm not in my race shape, ready to go. And 4 weeks is definitely a tight window to squeeze in getting in shape for this, but I decided to jump in and go after it. And so while not a comparable item to the things that Travis mentioned, I wanted to offer an example of one difficult task that I did sign up for. And so for you, what is it that you've signed up for? What is it you've done recently that's been truly difficult? Something you went to go do that was daunting, where you're like, oh man, that's a difficult task. Because if we take Travis' example, if we follow his lead on what he's doing in his life, that's the one way to get clarity. It's the one way to make all the noise, all the other stuff go away in life and get really clear about what we need to do and all the things that we have at our disposal to make that happen. Travis, thank you again. We're definitely going to be following your lead on this. Until next time.